Had a chance to catch up with the newest member of the Detroit Lions, offensive lineman Geoff Schwartz, who just signed his free agent contract. And he was very gracious, good talker, allowed me to pick his brain about a whole lot of things. So I want you to hear that conversation now. I started out by asking him, why was Detroit the right spot for you?
You know, his process just takes a while sometimes, and I ended up in a good spot. To me, I know the situation I'm in, kind of coming off a couple of injuries. I did play last year, and I am a very good football player. I'm not concerned about that, but I wanted a place where I can compete, where I can bring some veteran leadership, and Detroit's that spot. I'm glad that they called. I'm glad that we were able to work something out, and I'm excited to get going in a couple of weeks.
The last couple of years having to battle injuries, how frustrating was that for you when you knew you had more to give?
Oh, it's enormously frustrating. And, they're injuries that were unpreventable. You can train a certain way to prevent a lot of, soft tissue injuries, and you can strengthen your knees to help strengthen your quads and your hamstrings to prevent knee injuries, and you can train your way out of a lot of injuries. And I have done that in my career. But these, dislocated big toe, first time our team doctor has seen that in 30 years. Then I rehab back from that. It takes me 12 weeks. I play 90 snaps and break my leg and blow out my ankle. I mean, you just can't predict this stuff. And then I rehab all the way back to play this year and, did my best, not at 100%. And then I break my leg again and get cut. So it's pretty it's frustrating, I put a lot of time and energy, and my family's been through a lot. And I'm hoping this year that I can stay healthy and avoid kind of the freak injury.
So Detroit will be your fifth stop in your career in the NFL. It's a lot of moving around for you, and you've got a family too. I saw the pictures there on your Twitter, on social media. So what's it like to constantly be picking up and moving and dealing with not just the football side of things, but also the personal side?
Yeah, I think people forget that a lot of us have families, and this stuff really affects families. We had a school for my son in New Jersey. We had a pediatrician. We had friends. We had a house. And, I signed a 4-year contract. So I assumed that I would play that contract out. I didn't think otherwise. And, now you have to move again. We have to find a place in Detroit. We got to find all those things again. It's a 1-year deal. So, in the off season, I'll go back to, to Charlotte where I live. And so you have to there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of logistics. And we get it. I mean, it's my 15 now. I've done it a couple times, and I know. And it's tough for my wife. She works, and, it's hard to find a balance between her working in Charlotte, her maybe finding a job in the city I'm playing in, and just going back and forth. So we make it work. It's tough, but, we're able to do it somehow. We managed to make it work.
He's newly signed with the Detroit Lions. Offensive lineman Geoff Schwartz with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. Recently, the NFL decided to do away with all chop blocks, so eliminating them being used in any situation. You've been really vocal about it. What effect do you think that rule change will have on offensive linemen and on the offense in general?
Well, I just think we've devalued offensive line play over the years. With the spread offenses, with a lot of the rule changes that have been done, where everyone passes the ball a lot more now. Just offensive line play is changing, and this is another rule that will hinder offensive line play. When a chop block is done properly, no one gets hurt. Very rarely does it happen, and they're just slowly eliminating the run game. And I get player safety, trust me. I think that we're doing a good job of finding ways to keep everyone safe, but this is a rule that's going to change a little bit of the running game, and it's going to be hard to enforce because you have an umpire who's behind the line of scrimmage, and the rule basically states that you cannot, if someone's blocking someone high, you can't come in and chop them out as a second guy. So it's going to be hard for the referee to see, is the guy not engaged anymore? Is he still engaged? Where did this happen? Does the guy in front or not? It's going to be tough. I feel like they're probably going to lean on the side of throwing more flags at first. And we'll have to get used to it, like all other rule changes. We'll get used to it, we'll adjust, but I think it will affect the running game.
When I was in San Francisco on Radio Row, I had a chance to catch up with your former teammate, Rashad Jennings of the Giants. And we were talking about the way the league is transformed into a pass happy league. And he said, obviously, as a running back, that you ask any offensive coordinator and they will tell you the success of an offense is built on the ability to run the ball. So, as an offensive lineman, different teams under your belt, what's the formula? What's the right balance for a team to be successful on offense?
A lot of people say the run game is still very important. And if you look at the two Super Bowl teams, Carolina did run the ball very well. Denver was middle of the pack, but, New England was an AFC Championship game, and they were at the bottom, end of running the ball. So, it just kind of depends on your system. The quarterbacks now are just so advanced. It starts at high school. When I was in high school, no one really ran the spread offense. I'm not that old, but, now it's evolved. The quarterbacks are running these offenses in high school and college. When they get to NFL, they're so advanced that you can do maybe more in the passing game. And now offenses have gone to a little more no huddle where you allow the quarterback to determine, what's going to happen. We did that a lot in New York with Eli. You call a play in, Eli looks at the defense and puts us in a better play. And that happens to often be a pass. The box is loaded up, let's throw the ball. So this is the way it's worked. I just think running the ball is, you'll never find an offensive lineman who says he wants to pass instead of run. We understand that running the ball is important. We try to do it as much as possible, but it's slowly kind of going away.
So, Geoff, as I was investigating and snooping around on your Twitter, I discovered that you have a podcast. I think that's pretty rare for an NFL player. So what do you talk about on your podcast?
Yeah, so in December, I was on IR. A good buddy of mine does some offensive line scouting for Bleacher Report. And we just decided one day we're going to start a podcast about offensive line play. And it's evolved, over time. We talked a lot about March Madness last week, and, we talked about just random stuff that pops up. But a lot of it's offensive line play. With analytics now, with the all-22 film that people can get, a lot of people have takes about offensive line now. I feel like there's a lot of people that want knowledge, they're thirsty for knowledge of offensive line. So we use the podcast to try to inform people, try to teach people about offensive line play. Our last episode we put out, we kind of debunked the top 10 sayings for offensive line. Plays in a phone booth, waist bender, just moving the guard, just all these things that kind of people think sound good, but what do they really mean? Are they really important? And it's fun. People seem to like the podcast. We get good reviews and people sending questions, and it's been fun.
You can find the link to Geoff's podcast on his Twitter at Geoff Schwartz, and Geoff is spelled Geoff. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. So know that you are a Giants fan, and Pablo Sandoval has just been benched by the Boston Red Sox. Of course, you had the experience with Pablo being out in the Bay Area. I don't know if you talked about this on your podcast or not, but he's getting guaranteed money. And one big difference with baseball and NBA is that the contracts are guaranteed, not the same for NFL players. So how does that change how you negotiate and how you approach free agency and signing contracts?
Well, a guy in my situation, with non-guaranteed money, you have to find a place where you can play and make the roster. In baseball, Pablo's he didn't even seem upset in his quotes. He's like, "Oh, I thought this was going to happen. Whatever." He was still going to get paid, and it's just not the way in football. Maybe it makes guys work a little harder. I know baseball players, they work hard, but it's just careers are shorter, and you try to get that guaranteed money. That's what everyone fights for, is the guaranteed money in the first couple of years of your deal. And one day, maybe we'll get to, fully guaranteed contracts, but I don't think we're even close to that yet.
To bring it back to football, one of the things that we're hearing over and over from players and from coaches is talk about concussions and the danger of them leading to long-term brain trauma. I certainly heard a lot of it in San Francisco. How much is that a concern for you and in the locker room these days?
I think my wife is more concerned about than I am. I've been lucky to not have any concussions. I don't know if that's the way I play or I've just been lucky. But I think we know the risks of playing football now. There's no doubt about that. And I do think guys are a lot more cautious about it. I think when, I first came in, 8 years ago, you kind of just played through head injuries. They just kind of did. And now guys are way more alert about it. Training staffs are way more alert about it. Obviously, some get missed, but for the most part, they get caught. I mean, we had a teammate last year who was displaying some sort of concussion symptoms, but he wasn't really sure. And in the past, maybe he would have played through it, but he told the trainers he got checked in the program, and it turned out he had a concussion. And that's the type of stuff that's getting better.
This seems to be the big debate. What responsibility does your employer have, the NFL, as well as your team, when it comes to concussions and long-term head injuries?
I think they're doing good or making good steps to treat them. I mean, it's hard to treat them. Your rest is how you treat them, and just identifying concussions. And it does fall on the players a little bit to report concussions. And I think that nowadays we know what is going on. I think it was clear that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, that the information was not out there. But now it is. We know what the risks are. I know when I go out there that I can get a concussion. I know that that CTE is a possibility. I feel great. My mind's still working really well. So I'm blessed in that sense. But I think we all know the risk now. There's no excuse for a guy to say nowadays that they don't know what they're doing.
Geoff Schwartz is now with the Lions, but spending a few minutes with us here after hours, CBS Sports Radio. So if you don't mind, spent most of my show last night talking about a violation of man code in the Lakers locker room, D'Angelo Russell filming Nick Young, a private conversation. It gets out. And since I don't really know much about man code, I'm asking you, you're in a locker room day in, day out. How egregious an offense is this?
It can't get out. The filming of it, I read a lot about this, and it seems like that they film each other doing stuff all the time. Them two, they're good friends, and the video got out. I know Russell feels bad for it. I've never even been in a situation like that. In the NFL, we're pretty good in the locker room about not recording things, and even with my buddies, a lot of time we try to find, places where if we go out, we sit in the table where no one can hear us talk. And, but I've never been in a situation like that. I feel bad for all the parties. I'm a Lakers fan. And the team is kind of a disaster right now.
Well, that is the case. So maybe the man code violation is the least of the Lakers' worries. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at Geoff Schwartz. Make sure you check out his podcast because, of course, offensive linemen are the best talkers on the team. Now with the Lions, Geoff, it's great to catch up with you. Thanks so much.